Alright nerds, here we are. Video 2. Now, this is a bit different to normal. What I need you to have with you is a copy of your periodic table. You should have got it today in class. So, have your periodic table with you, and let's roll. Now, what's the point? You basically want to be able to identify the various different groups and also periods on the periodic table. To do this, we're going to be able to label the periodic table. So, go and grab your periodic table. Alright, now what you need to remember, the properties of elements can be predicted using a periodic table. Now this doesn't just mean how many protons, electrons and neutrons it has. This actually means like what will it react with? Will it explode if I put it in water? Will it rip all of the available atoms off my lungs and cause me to bleed to death out of my mouth and nose? These are things we can work out from the periodic table. Okay, so first, here's your periodic table of elements. You'll see that it's got a bunch of numbers across here, and I'm going to put some up in a minute that'll make that just a little bit clearer. But first, I want you to label all of, just right across the top of your periodic table, or just above it, I don't mind, 1 to 18. Now you should have a bit of room around yours. But leave room because it's going to take up a bit of space. What we're going to do, we're going to scribble all over this thing. Okay, so once you've labelled, so pause between instructions if you want. Once you've labelled 1 to 18, we're going to label what we call the main block elements, and that actually cancels out, so I'll have to erase this in a second, this section here, and that crap down there. So it cancels out these, and it's just this, so 1, 2, 13 to 18. That's our main block elements, okay? Now, bring back our pen. Okay, so they're our main block elements. So label them 1 to 18. Now, we want to label the ones we call the main block elements, which is just 1, 2, 13, 14 to 18, with Roman numerals. I, right through to number 8 here, which is VIII. This is ultra important. This is actually the main one we'll use. These ones, these little numbers across here, to be honest, we might use them to find stuff like, you know, what's one in group 10, whatever. But I to VIII, they're the one, that's the way we'll do it. And these are, by the way, the columns are groups. Alright, so that's our groups. So label those, then come back. Alright, now we want to label the periods. So the periods are actually the repeating patterns. So it goes across, repeats, across, repeats, across, repeats, and so forth. So the periods start here, and it's period 1 all the way down. And it looks like that. So you want to label all 7 periods. Now, the tricky one here is these guys all fit within that square there, and these guys all fit, not that you can see it because we lost it, within that square there. Alright, so do that. Now let's move on. So we want to label the states of matter at room temperature. In actual fact, it's what we call STP, standard temperature and pressure, which is about room temperature and a pressure of 1 atmosphere. So let's do that. First, let's label all of the liquids because that's the easiest one to find because there's 2 of them. You've got bromine over here and mercury here. Now, you label that however you want. I think you'd find it easy if you just drew like a little teardrop shape or a drop of water to show that that is a liquid at room temperature. Now, maybe you could use a cloud to show the gases. So let's do that. These ones here that are now highlighted, they're your gases at room temperature. Now, think about it. You should also be doing a key, maybe down the bottom here or something like that. You know, I'm going to get rid of this and bring the laser pointer because that's pretty easy to see. Alright, so you want to label the gases. Solids, the rest of them are solids. You don't need to label the solids, not when you're doing it by hand. Alright, so let's get a bit metal. We want to label all of the metals. So we're going to do this with colouring in pencils. Pretend it's a geography lesson. Let's colour some stuff in. So all those ones that we just coloured in there, That's your metals. Everything in that pile is metals. So one, we notice that the periodic table is overwhelmingly solid. It's very solid. We also know that it's overwhelmingly metal, okay, which is why chemistry is the most awesome subject to study next year, because it's super metal. Now, let's look at our non-metals. Okay, so there's a small section here. So these are all of our metals, and these ones are all of our non-metals, which you might be wondering, what's this section in here? If it's not a metal, what is it? It's halfway between, actually, which is fairly interesting. So they're what we call our semi-metals. You can also use the word metalloid, which is the one I prefer. Your textbook uses semi-metals, so we'll call them semi-metals, but I prefer metalloids. Just sounds super futuristic and awesome. So the last ones we need to label, and again, I don't mind how you do this, it's up to you, is you want to label your radioactive elements. These are the ones where you pretty much you pick any of the atoms out and they're radioactive. So the red ones, that's our radioactive ones. If you're colorblind, it's these guys all the way across. This one here, technetium, I think it's, I'm not going to even have a guess. I want to say polonium, but who knows. Technetium is one of my favorites, it's pretty rad. And all of the actinides across here. Alright, so you know what you're doing. I don't care how you label it, as long as you label it. That's it for today. It was a fairly straightforward one. Probably took some time, sorry about that. And yeah, see you in class.